Hey everyone, and we're on to the next one in the series. So, this one is a little bit of a fun one. This is going to teach you how to have a right eyeball connection with someone else. And the research actually goes back to like neonatal research and the way that infants bond with their mother and other adults, but mainly with the mother. So what we're going to do is you're going to learn how to connect your right eyeball to somebody else's right eyeball and then your left one to their left one. Because again, our right eyeball is our emotional eyeball. It is the one that's looking for the aliveness in others. And it's also the one that helps build our mirror neurons. Our mirror neurons definitely are not fed when we're doing things through, even if it's through Zoom or audios like this, even though you can see my eyes, it's not quite the same as when you're in person and you're really making those eyeball connections. And so find a place that's comfortable for you to listen. This one you can listen to while you're driving. The other ones I don't suggest you do while you're driving because this is just going to discuss the technique and then you can practice it with your friends and relatives and even your pets. And we'll jump right into the audio. Welcome, everyone, to another audio in our codependency series. So, codependency can really be kind of narrowed down. It's kind of like you're living vicariously through other people. You may not know exactly what you want. So, then it can make it hard to make decisions and to move forward with your life. And one of the ways we can start to repattern kind of the way our brain perceives things is we're going to learn what's called a right eyeball connection. So our right eye is our emotional eye, and I don't remember the gentleman who did the research on it. It gets more into studying babies and kind of like neonatal stuff, the way babies bond with their parents. And our left eye is more of our business eyeball. So if you want to have a transaction and it's just business, there's no emotions, then, you can take your left eye looking into their left eye. However, if you're wanting to make an emotional connection, you're going to take your right eyeball and you're going to look into the other person's right eyeball. You'll begin to start noticing, for some people, it's very uncomfortable, especially your autistic friends may find it hard to maintain that kind of a connection. For many of us, where we spend too much time, what do they call it, doom scrolling, or if we watch TV more than a couple hours a day, anywhere where we're getting a lot of screen time, we are not nourishing the right eyeball emotional connection to another being, and our mirror neurons in our brain will actually starve. And then it makes it hard to connect with others. So when we're practicing this, we're developing the mirror neurons. And when we're young, if we're doing our right eyeball connection, say to a caregiver or, someone else that we rely on them meeting our needs, but we can feel that connection is either hostile or icky, then again, we also will develop almost like stressful mirror neurons. So when people say, why do I keep attracting the same, whatever, awful person, abusive person, whatever that is, if that's the case, then you haven't developed the more emotional neural pathways of someone who's healthy. So that when you look at the other person, it's familiar because, maybe your needs weren't met. You might have been neglected or just outright abused as a kid. So then that's what your mirror neurons are looking for a connection. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but and this is why we like animals so much, because they also, too, you can do this right eyeball connection with them. Our neighbor has these two huge dogs that they just got, and it's funny because they love me. And I figured, we have a short fence, so, if they wanted to, they could easily jump over the fence. So to befriend these dogs, I pet them. I've not fed them anything. I've only used positive reinforcement. Oh, you're such a good dog. smush their big squishy face. And then I do a right eyeball to right eyeball connection with them. So there's more of an emotional connection there. So anytime I'm out, they, will come running to the fence to get their right eyeball connection. But that's one of the reasons why we like pets so much too. And this is also why pets are intuitive and can tell who, not all pets do this, but most pets can tell who's safe and who's not safe and, those kind of things. So going back to the right eyeball connection. So this is something I want you to start practicing with others. And you can do it with yourself in a mirror, looking from your right eyeball into the mirror reflection of you, but it's still not going to develop the right, correct safety mirror neurons in your brain as it would doing it with another human being. Because when you have your right eyeball looking into the eyeball of another person, another alive being, be an animal, a person, your primordial brain, that part of your brain that doesn't have eyes, it doesn't have ears, that primordial part of your brain starts to relax because it realizes, oh, I am not on this big rock in the sky by myself. Now, I also want to encourage you to be careful who you make right eyeball connections with, because again, not everybody's friendly, not everybody's helpful. And this is why things like AI generated photos, robots, and things like that feel kind of creepy to us, because our right eyeball to right eyeball connection is the way that we sense another person's or animal's aliveness. So, when if you're looking at a robot, you can't find that aliveness. They call it the uncanny valley experience. And I talk about it briefly. I think it's chapter 12 of my book. It's in one of the chapters where I talk about that. But mainly it's when you can tell something's not alive. So it is a primordial instinct for us to be able to tell if something is alive or not. So when I worked in hospice and I was supporting people as they leave their body, I could actually describe to the family when they left their body, because I still have that sense of, is somebody or something alive or not. So even if you come across like an injured animal or an injured person, we are wired to be able to tell, even before we touch it, if it's alive or not, or if it's icky or not. It's our primordial way of keeping ourselves safe, and so we don't eat um, toxic food and things like that. So you can actually pick an apple off a tree and then go buy a store-bought apple, and they're both apples, but you can set them together. And I've tried this because I have an apple tree in my backyard where, I've picked that apple off the tree, and then I've got one from the store, and it's amazing how much more alive the one that I've picked off a tree feels compared to the one in the store that's just been sitting around for, I don't know how many days or months or whatever that fruit sits around before it gets to the supermarket so we can buy it. And so, what I want you to do then is to practice sensing the aliveness in another. And it doesn't matter if it's a supermarket clerk, it could be whatever, you're at a party, you're mingling with people, whatever it is, start practicing that right eyeball to right eyeball connection and pay attention to how you're feeling in your body. And when you get good at this, you'll be able to sense what's going on in their body, but it will stay over there. Because remember when I talked about codependency is we have a tendency to run other people's energies. So if you're making that right eyeball connection to right eyeball connection and you're feeling their stuff in your body, you're still running their energies, and tell your body to stop it. Focus on that right eyeball connection and just do it a little bit here and there. And then what you'll notice if you start doing it with your friends, I don't necessarily tell people what I'm doing unless I'm teaching somebody how to do this, because this will help start to regulate your nervous system. And then you'll find with your friends or your pets, I even have a neighbor who has some assertive health issues. So I was teaching them how to do this process. And I notice now when we converse or, bump into each other outside, it's like his body now like looks for that right eyeball connection. And you'll find certain people, they almost will refuse to have a left eyeball connection if it's a personal conversation. So you can kind of play with it and see how it goes and let me know of your experience of this. So now, when you're out and about in public, or even just chatting with family members, or maybe your own children, give this right eyeball connection a go. See how it goes for you. Or for those of you who are in business and doing negotiations and you want to keep the emotions out of it, or maybe you feel you're getting triggered, you can shift to your left eye to their left eye so that you can kind of detach from any emotional triggers you have when you're in the middle of a negotiation. And of course, to maintain healthy, supportive relationships, we want that emotional connection. We don't always want to have everything that's just, strictly transactional without having the emotion, because it's our emotions that give life more juice, more pizzazz, shall we say. And again, leave me a comment after you've tried this. Let me know how it goes, and I'll see you in the next audio.